What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Guest List podcast. Today on the show, I have Paul Gonzales. He is the founder of For the Culture and also of Boom Creative Agency. And for those who have been with us since the beginning, you may have remembered it was about 4 months ago, maybe 5. We had Rex from Vegas on the show. He is the music journalist for the Culture. Already getting tongue-tied, right? Yeah. We'll say FTC from now on just to make it a little bit easier. FTC. And they were in their infancy stages back then. I think Rex had only conducted 1 or 2 interviews.
Yeah.
Since then, FTC has taken on a face of its own, offering so many different things for the local culture and more specifically music scene. And I've been waiting to have this conversation with Paul because I just love everything that they're doing. And their office is literally like a 5-minute walk from where I'm living. So they're right down here in the heart of downtown Vegas where the culture is being built. So Paul, thank you for coming on.
Certainly. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here on the Guest List pod. And you know, that was one of the first times I did see you is when you did that with Rex back then. And I just remember thinking like, wow, this is a high quality thing. It's very high production value. And you guys are really getting into it. That was the thing I really loved about it is it wasn't like just a surface level thing. So ever since then, yeah, I think we're both excited for this moment to get to this.
Yeah, man. I hate surface level conversation. I was having this conversation with a woman. Her name's Paula. I was on her podcast called The Scrappy Entrepreneur. And we were talking about having skill sets and why I started the Guest List podcast. And something I've realized in life is that a lot of the conversations I have never last 5 minutes. They're always like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. And I'm not trying to learn about, you know, your name or your mother's maiden name. I want to know like what your beliefs are about space and do you believe in consciousness and some like the more in-depth conversations. I find that more fascinating about a person than maybe like how they're making money and what they're doing.
Yeah, the juicy stuff.
The juicy stuff. Give it to me, man. Let's start all the way back in the beginning because I know we've had a few conversations before this, but I actually don't know your backstory. And I always find people's backstories pivotal to how they turn out in society and in life. It's kind of the nature versus nurture debate. So let's go back to, let's say, high school. How was a high school Paul Gonzales? What was his mentality and where were you in the United States?
Yeah, so high school Paul Gonzales, stellar fellow, right? But way different, you know. That was, all right, so I went to high school 2012 to 2016, and then that was in Portland, Oregon, right? So 2016 graduated from there. But to give you an idea, like I was still pretty much into the same kind of stuff. You know, I had the same goals, but I had no idea how I was going to reach them. You know, like I knew there was a few kind of things I wanted and I was into, but like I had no idea how I was going to do it. But even back then I would say, I was confident in computer science. I thought that code was like for sure, like one of the ways I was going to get somewhere, you know, like you can't go wrong there. I was really into reading, still am, but like back then I was just chomping through books. And then because I was president of the Bird Club. You know, maybe that was the beginning
of the what club?
The Bird Club.
The Bird Club?
Yeah.
What is that?
The Bird Club, right? So what we do, it's a flock. Go for it. Oh, nice. Yeah, so the Bird Club, essentially what it is it's a group of us high schoolers that absolutely loved birds, right? And so up in the Pacific Northwest, but Portland specifically, you have a lot of opportunity for really crazy birding because there's so many migration patterns and really just indigenous wildlife in Portland, right? So like if you're into birding, you can see a crap ton of birds. If you're here in Vegas, there's like 4 or 5 species. You know, you get a crow, you get a pigeon, you get like some ducks or something. But if you're in Portland, there's like 50 different types of ducks that you might see if you go to certain places, right?
Well, when you said Bird Club, I was thinking it was like an acronym for something mathematical or something, you know, culturally, especially in Oregon, where it's a very...
Literally, it's the birds.
Yeah, that's funny. So my takeaway from that is that you probably possess some sort of skills where you're able to concentrate on something very specific and kind of you like to specialize and go deep into one topic.
Yeah, I definitely believe in that. I get obsessive about things like when it's really something worthwhile, you know, like give you an example, it was like the computer science stuff, right? Started freshman year, I had this teacher, his name was T. Smith, and like I don't know how he worked it out with the school system, but essentially he just had classes where he let the kids do whatever they want as long as it was computer science oriented. So I remember back then I took like this Photoshop class and I was like, it's pretty interesting. You know, you could do some stuff from that. And I started connecting dots. Like I could probably, you know, make graphics for somebody and make some money here and there. And I was like, fuck, okay, you know, that's something. So then it was like, all right, next up, I need to know Illustrator. Like that's the next step. So no time in between went to that. But then I was like, all right, I need to put this on the internet now. So then through T. Smith's class, I went deep with like the computer coding, and you know, that's how it's been my lunches and stuff. Like my friends would go out and like everybody smoking and have a good time. And I just remember I'd just like be chilling in the hallways with my laptop trying to figure out like CSS and shit. Like, come on, it's gotta make sense, right? But yeah, no, I definitely do get zoned in and focused.
So you're actually the youngest person I've had on. I didn't even realize you graduated 2016. So,
Yeah.
So that'd make you what, 22?
Yeah, I'm 22.
Oh, fresh. So you're part of the Zoomer generation.
I suppose there's Zoomers. I guess like it's interesting because like the nomenclature, it gets like subcategorized in a weird way. I like the term bloomer, you know.
Bloomer. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I'm closer to the bloomer. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. It's interesting. So what brought you down here to Vegas?
So before high school, I moved around a bunch, right? And that's one thing that like most people don't know is I probably went to like 14-ish schools, you know,
Holy
like
shit.
just constant moving, right? And then one of those pit stops was here in Vegas, and I met one of my buddies, Marco. Some people might know him as Marco 4D at this point, right? Like he's a rapper, and he's really doing some absolutely tremendous stuff. But I met him in 7th grade, right? And then we hit it off, and I moved away pretty quick. I think I was gone then like 8 months or so, but like we connected through the internet and whatnot. So we just kept talking through the internet, playing video games, Skype. And then my sister also lived here. So I like graduated high school, and you know, I guess high schoolers go through that thing where they want to do something new. I had the opportunity to go to college, but I was like, you know, I don't really want to. I want to do something, right? So I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to start businesses, and I'm just going to get on with it, right? And I did. And I ended up kind of liking it here. You know, I guess it's been 4 years, and yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, two businesses. And the thing that I find fascinating about this is, well, first, I like that you acknowledge that college isn't necessarily for everybody.
Yeah.
I believe the younger generations are really starting to notice the facade of what a college degree is, and not investing in your future by divesting in your financial future because of the loans that you have to take out and the crippling.
It's treacherous.
Yeah, the crippling just student debt that comes with it, and you're never able to overcome it.
Yeah, and like to go on that a little bit deeper, you know, and I have thought about it. Give you the people a backstory. I did 2 years when I was in high school, right? So I was really in biology. I got into like 300 level biology and mainly like anatomy, physiology, that kind of stuff. Loved it, right? And then I came to this position where like I can go to college, I can go to these honors colleges and these things, but it was just going to be so much money. And it was going to be and I'm happy I didn't do it because I almost went for philosophy. You know, that would not have been, that wouldn't have been the thing to do. But I just remember thinking like I did the math out, and I was like, I'm going to owe like $60,000 at the end of this whole thing, right? And I just think, I was like, nah, I can't do it. You know, like I could do it some other way. I don't necessarily need to go and spend this to get this. But I guess like a tandem from that is I have a lot of friends who did end up going to college, and right now they're getting out and doing this thing. And they have no jobs, or like they have very bleak opportunities. A few are actually doing pretty crazy, right? But they had to work really hard for that. And I don't know, I almost feel bad for them in a way, but then there's something else that a lot of people don't think about is I think it's like a social connectedness that you can get through college, right? Very few other places can you get connected with people who are more than likely going to do something in their life and get connected with a lot of them. Right?
I think that's more so what the investment of a college experience is now. And I think the route that colleges are going in terms of remote learning and it's going to basically cripple all of the organizations that are on campuses, fraternities,
yes,
sororities, educational organizations, philanthropies, all these are going to basically become obsolete. And then it's like, what's the point of college within itself if you could just do online learning? And I know Harvard's still offering $50,000 classes to just learn online when you could figure out the same thing on YouTube for free.
Yeah, literally. And I've got these friends, and I especially feel bad for the ones that are going to like private universities or very, major oriented schools, like, all right, I'm going to this school for a reason because of this program. Their science program's awesome. And it all gets shut down because of this. And they're still spending a crap ton of money. And there's like no difference. Now they're just spending $40K and sitting at home. And, it's interesting.
It is. I think unless you're going to college for the hard sciences, things like physics, biology, the more concrete
even
educational,
mathematics,
theoretical physics, like some of those ones. And if you want to go into something like that's subjective or that's ever evolving, like business and philosophy and arts, and economics, these are things that even employers, they prefer real world experience.
Right.
And that was something that you had brought up where you wanted to come down in Vegas because there's a massive opportunity to start businesses out here. Yeah. And that was something that I had realized that when I went to college. I went to college for health science, for kinesiology. And a lot of my friends would always ask me why I didn't get into business because I'd always kind of had like an entrepreneurial mindset. And I always said that, we're all born with a business degree because business is something that you learn through trial and error. The majority of people don't hit that 1 million or $1 billion business on their first try. So it
takes some goes.
So that takes, it just shows that you have to look at failure in a different way than what failure actually is. You have to look at it and kind of analyze and dissect it and pull the meaningful moments out of it. And eventually you can leverage all of these different moments and experiences and skills on top of each other to create something specific.
Yes, certainly. And I definitely do feel that you're going to fail a lot, and the more you fail, I think it's the more likely you're going to win. And that's like, it's counterintuitive. It's like, the more I'm a loser, the more closer I become to winning. But yeah, like in business and like a lot of, we were talking about before this, some of these things you can do in life that don't necessarily give you like a proportional payout to the effort you're giving in that moment. Right. And that's like, for a lot of people, it could be dangerous because like, I could never even expect like a lot of people to go through something for 6 months with no payout. That's a psychologically hard thing to do. But after that 6 months, at some point, you get the lumpy payout. There's some sort of payout that would have never been possible unless you did all that madness for 6 months, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, society teaches a lot of us to evaluate success with monetary payout. Yeah. But that's not something that I think you should go into with a first-hand mindset when you're creating something of exuberance as form of a business, because that is an extension of you. And you're not created with money. You're created with your mindset and your culture and passion. And these are the things that you need to employ your business with right from the get-go, so that the people who become your customers or your community, depending on whatever you're building, they see that, and that's portrayed through your artistic touch of whatever creation you are building.
Yeah, no, through and through entirely. And it's like, money's important. I'm on the board for a nonprofit here in town called Family Arts, and like right when I got involved with them, I was talking to the woman who runs it, Miss Kern, and she goes, we're a nonprofit, but that doesn't mean we don't make money, because like at the end of the day, that's kind of the thing that all keeps it going. But like if you kind of like detach yourself from it and like you create like a bigger goal and a bigger aim, and you actually like hit that goal and aim, then the money comes. Like it's really hard to be poor, I think, but like you're top 1% of any skill set. Like if you're the top 1% of like being a video editor, it's gonna be really, really hard not to get work coming in. But the thing is, people are focused on the work and not being the top 1%. Like they want all this payout, but like you got to hit a point. There's magic there.
That you do. There's a popular philosopher that I love, modern day philosopher. His name's Naval. Yeah. And are you familiar with it? With
Naval Ravikant?
Yeah. I absolutely love him. A lot of people do. He has like 1 million followers at this point. But he's taken that kind of idea and he's leveraged it in a different way, where he says, instead of being at the top 1% of something, if you could put yourself in the top 20% of 3 things, of 3 different categories, then that is basically becomes your niche. And then that's what you need to dive down into.
That's some superpower stuff.
Yeah, it's some superpower thinking, because now in society, everything that's going to take to be the top 1% of something, it has to be basically a brand new industry that's created, right? Joe Rogan's the top 1% because he was on the ground floor. He was there when there was 100 podcasts or 200 podcasts.
Yeah.
So unless you're creating something new, you need to kind of be an entrepreneur of skill sets and basically build something that is just very specific to you.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with that, but it does help kind of reaching back when you're talking about, all right, your business is this extension of you. And it's like, you know, your culture and your personality and all these things that you've been through create this business. I think that also is magical because that creates something new. People get caught up on, you know, doing the same old thing or like, you know, whatever. But like when you really create something new and it's from you, it could be a spin-off of something that already exists, but it ends up being new because it's you, you know? And like if you actually like the guest list pod, right? Like anybody could do a podcast like about this kind of thing, but it's you and your experiences and, you know, your professionalism and then your research and then everything that's been going into making you a person then makes this new and really sick, you know? But a lot of other people, they might not go that deep with it.
Right. It's your perspective on top of your skills.
Perspective. Yeah.
Which is tough because the way that you view not just business, but the way that you view reality is really defined off of your perspective, right? This is the kind of thing that separates pragmatic people from optimistic people to negative people. It's all based off your framing to whatever the situation is, right? If you go bankrupt per se, a lot of people will sit on that idea and complain about it 10 years down the road and say that was their failure. Or people who end up being optimistic, they'll be like, all right, well, you know, this sucks, but I'm going to find the positivity out of it. And I'm going to build on top of that to whatever my future may be.
Yeah, no, entirely. And also the bankruptcy thing is pretty funny because like growing up, you're always taught that like, oh, that is the worst thing that could ever happen. But if you start to look at successful people or even just like a lot of people through their lives, there's like a crap ton of bankruptcies and whatnot going on in there. And it's like, yeah, it's part of the game, you know, especially here in America. You get debt. Sometimes you make money. Sometimes you don't make money. Things happen. But yeah, the bankruptcy is kind of a funny one.
Yeah, it becomes a legal proceeding. And that's something that you learn just living out life. And that's something that, as far as legal proceedings and social constructions, when I first opened up my antique store, something that I realized after we closed down about 2 years into business was that all of these individual businesses, everyone's out there really just winging it. Yeah. Like when I opened up the antique store and I was setting things up and having customers come in and, you know, the first month or two of business and sending taxes and different things like that, I'm just like, wow, everyone is really just kind of on their own. There is no automatic framework to building this business for success.
Yeah, no, entirely. And it is, yeah. No, entirely, bro.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah.
So let's dive into FTC then, because I think this business it's very different from your traditional business because it's literally right in the name, culture. And culture is defined in so many different parabolas across the world based off of, I guess, who's leading it, but also the activities and interests and mindset that's within it. Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning of For the Culture. I know it's still relatively recent, but was this an idea that was inspired by something that had happened in your life, or was it something that happened maybe as a culmination of multiple I guess ideas and friends and kind of just everything along those lines?
Right. All right, let's get right into it. So have you heard of Nietzsche?
Yes.
The philosopher Nietzsche?
Yes. Very popular, man.
Yeah. So, you know, I've been a big fan since I was really young, and he has one quote, and it essentially goes, and it's about the definition of culture, because it's hard to pin down exactly what culture is, right? So Nietzsche says that culture, in quotes, culture is the artistic will and expression of a people. You know, it's just how a people expresses themselves. And a lot of times it's through artistic means, but it could even be in so much as like how they cook their food or, you know, the way in which they lay bricks, right? Like that it all informs the culture. It's how they express themselves. So that's kind of the For the Culture way of thinking about culture, you know, and then that opens us up to a lot because the people are always changing, you know, it's like a group sort of consciousness. It's, you know, it's the zeitgeist, whatever it would be, it's always changing and it's always evolving. So then For the Culture is just as much of a creative thing as a reflexive thing, you know, like, all right, we reflect what's happening in a way, and the higher our fidelity gets, the better, like the clearer and clearer we can reflect like culture. But I guess that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. If we took it all the way very back to the beginning, it was January of 2019, right? So a lot of people are coming into For the Culture now, and they're seeing us as like the media thing, and we make t-shirts and we do like small live performances and intimate sessions, but also put it on YouTube. We do all this stuff, but it started in the East Side Las Vegas, East Tropicana, in a boxing gym, right? So I was hanging out. It was me, Marco, my buddy from 7th grade, and then our other buddy, Dan, who we also met just like really just by chance. It's one of those things, like we were just like kind of a vector for this thing to come through. I think no matter what, it was going to happen somehow. So like I meet Dan by chance, and then like a month and a half later, we're hanging out at Madhouse Coffee over on Durango. And then he's like, yeah, man, I got a boxing gym. Do you want to throw a show? And I talked to Marco about like throwing some shows, just like music and whatnot. I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty interesting. What could we do? Right. And we had no idea, absolutely no idea how to run a show. We were talking about like getting bubble machines and like just ridiculous things. We didn't even have a speaker, a PA to play it off of. We're like, okay, we got the space. Let's pick some musicians and like, let's make the show. Right. So then it came time to like name it. So then we're like just bouncing off names. And I think it was Dan. He was kind of like, well, we could run off a culture. And then I really liked that For the Culture. Then it was a term, like, oh, do it for the culture or whatever, right? So like we kind of ran off that. I was like, all right, For the Culture. Cool. Perfect. Easy. But then that's like a pivotal thing, because like that informed us on how we were going to actually do it, right?
It was the fork in the road.
Right? Like, because here we are thinking about a traditional like underground show, because that's what it was, an underground show where like people are going to get together in this location. It'll be like 4 hours, and we're just trying to make it cool, right? But then it was For the Culture, and we're like, okay, let's show off Vegas culture. What could we do to show off Vegas culture? So then we invited like 6 to 8 musicians, and then we had I think 4 or 5 painters pull up, like show their things. We had this guy named Hotbox the Planet Glass, a local glass blower, came out and was literally blowing glass outside of this in this boxing gym. I think there's guys there serving tacos. It was insane, right? With the musicians performing in the middle of the boxing gym. And I just remember thinking, because I'd never done nothing. None of us had ever done anything like that, ever. And then I remember like marketing it and like trying to think like, is anybody going to come to this? Like, is this something that people do, But it ended up being successful. I would say at least 100 people came. It was like 100 to 150. And that really, and it put the wind in our sails, and we're like, all right, let's do it again. And then it scaled, So for the Culture, it started with like 8 musicians and 4 artists. And then by the time, that was January of 2019, and by the time that we hit May of 2019, we'd had a couple more, and then we did it on the First Friday grounds over by Art Square right there. Mm-hmm. And I think we had like 400 people or ish come out to that. There was like 15 vendors. We had Priscilla Fowler's Fine Art Gallery. So she just moved over to Main Street, but she used to be over in Art Square. She let us use her space. We filled it with art. There was like 20 artists in there, and then we had like 20 musicians. It was really like a mini festival. And that was called FTC 3. That was May of 2019. And that's like when everything changed. That's when we were like, all right, this is crazy. Like
this business or this idea has potential to scale outwards into something more.
Yeah, definite potential. And the thing was, it was a bit insanity, because like, all right, so the first one, it costs a lot of money to do. The second one, the third one, it costs a lot of money to do these, right? And we never made the money back until like, I think it took like 10 shows before we started to like, hit break even. And then after that, we would get closer to a profit. But it was definitely like a year, just a solid year of pouring a few $1,000s a month into something that, everybody loved, but the payout wasn't quite there, and then everybody's like, not even everybody, like my family, like, is this a good idea? And I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. It's really the best idea that I could have right now,
Right. And that's the cliche term when you start a business. They always say it takes about 3 years to get to that break-even point. Yeah. And that's, that's just a basic scale based off of running a business. But for you, it took, 10 months to about a year, 10 events, whatever the actual number was to do that.
Yeah.
But once you get back from being at that bottom and now you're surface level, now you look up and you're like, all right, there is no limit to where this can go.
There's absolutely no limit. It's a world of possibility, and that's like why For the Culture is so exciting, and is because like, all right, it's a new, you kind of touched on it where it's like a new thing. There aren't businesses that are exactly for the culture. And if like you go to typical business advice, for the culture is like the exact opposite thing of what somebody should do. You know, like you're supposed to like kind of pick your thing. Like maybe we're an event company, you know, that's great. We're doing underground events and we're moving into above ground events. Be the best at that, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean go start a clothing company with it and then, you know, go start making YouTube videos and all these internet videos and then start professionally recording all the musicians to try and have some of the best recordings that like you could physically make, right? So it's just it got more and more and more complex, but in like a really natural way. You know, that was the thing that I always wanted to keep true. Cause like,
that's important because the legal framework when it comes to a business, they want to box you in, right? Yeah. Because they want to put you in some tax category or they want you to do FBI background checks or whatever it is to it. But as a business owner, and more specifically as a creative intellectual, you don't want to put a box around yourself, even if it is just some sort of legal framework, because that still kind of is like a dark cloud that hovers over you. Like, oh, you're not supposed to be diving out from events. You're specifically an event company. And you're like, no, we're music journalism now. And there's skateboarding and all these other things that eventually come into it because culture, especially
the culture,
especially in Vegas, where I think the culture of Vegas is still in its infancy, like very, very, very early in its infancy. Obviously, we have the Strip, which is basically the capital of entertainment. You know, they say the entertainment capital of the country, if not the world.
Right.
And that has its own culture. But now the city that surrounds it, some people still think like, oh, do you fly into work every weekend? Like, is there an actual city outside of the Strip? But downtown Vegas now, I firmly believe now living down here for about 5 months that this is where the culture is being built. It's basically a hub of the majority of it's been food places and artistic creation. And Life is Beautiful has helped out with that drastically. First Fridays helped that out with drastically. But Vegas being a melting pot of culture within itself, and not even just racial culture, but also economic culture, professional culture, interest culture. There's so much diversity along all these different spectrums that you're trying to kind of encapsulate all of that in some sort of outlet. Yeah,
no, definitely. And that is, like, you know, as you live in Vegas, you touch on it, it's the melting pot. Very few people are born here and then, you know, remain here. It's hard. It's getting harder to find like a Vegas, you know, local.
So I had to start this.
Yeah, no, for real. And it's special, you know, it's very special because Vegas is this melting pot. I'm not exactly sure what the exact population number is of the Valley, right? But I think it's between 2 and 3 million. I'm pretty sure it's closer to the 3 million.
In Clark County, it's closer to 3 million.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's just play with that 3 million number. Like that's kind of the people around Vegas, you know, maybe they're a little bit farther out or whatever. But it shows me that like it's a golden age, right? Like it's literally a golden age that we're in right now because if you look at Vegas culture, what's happening down here downtown, right? Like we got Main Street, we got First Street, there's like this casino center and you got Commerce and like you got just a few streets around here that's the 18B. That's like the artistic cultural forefront. But I honestly feel like maybe there's only like 50,000 people involved in it. And that might even be like a high estimation, you know, it's still very far from like cracking open the entire city. And
it is starting to expand and even cultivate Fremont Street experience as well, even extending down to the Corner Street management area of Commonwealth and Gold Spike and all these different bar areas. So it is expanding outwards. And I had Jonathan Jossel on here, who is the CEO of the Plaza. And speaking with some of the other influencers down there, these casino executives, they realize what's happening down here. I just had Sam Cherry on here who built this building and Soho and Newport Lofts. And he built the first residential complex down here in 2006. And so he's been down there for the ground floor.
Yeah.
And he basically reiterated like, all of the leaders down here, they all realize what's happening down here. And this is the vision that they've had for 15 to 20 years for now. But now they see that it's coming into fruition, especially with Tony Hsieh investing in the downtown project, where he's put like almost $200 million of his own money into it. Of course, these projects take longer, especially being in a golden age. But in terms of creative, how do I describe it? In terms of somebody of the cream, let's say, rising to the top and taking out their specific niche in this area, it's like the wild, wild west.
Yeah, no, for real. That's the thing. It is like the wild, wild west. There's so much happening and so much newness that it's like even right under us, right? The Golden Fog Coffee Company, right? There's some other good coffee in the neighborhood, and then Golden Fog.
Yeah, there's like 4 down here.
Yeah, no, literally. But it's awesome. It's awesome. It's like inspirational, and it's like, it's rare because it's like an energy that you don't get everywhere. You know, like the energy, if you're down here in the middle of Vegas, you know, you're going to start meeting people, you're going to start meeting creatives, and you're going to start to get like overwhelmed and like engulfed in this energy that's going on down here. You know, I like to think of it, maybe I'm pulling too much, but like a Harlem Renaissance type thing, where it's like this entire urban area re-envisioning and recreating itself in like the most natural way possible.
It's a cultural renaissance that's happening.
Literally what's happening here. And we see it because like we're in the middle of it, and it's like, whoa, this is pretty cool. You know, this is badass. But I think at a certain point, like it will be written about, maybe not a whole history textbook, but there'll be like a little piece about the Las Vegas Cultural Revolution or something.
Yeah. The Arts District was actually rated #1 coolest neighborhood to live in the country. It was in, forget what magazine it was, but there was a few tenants and a few businesses that were sharing this article a few weeks ago. But I just had on Scott Robin from Vital Vegas on here, and we were talking about the differences between downtown and the Strip. And the main difference, which I think is beautiful, and I think this is kind of an attribution to the younger generation, is that the main difference between downtown and the Strip is that downtown, everyone is collaborating with each other, and there is no divisiveness between business. Everyone acknowledges that we're sharing our culture and our customer base. Whereas the Strip, it's very tribal, very territorial. Caesars Entertainment versus MGM versus the Wynn versus Venetian, who owns like 95% of the area down there. And they try to keep their customers within their hotels and casinos and don't acknowledge anything else. Whereas what's happening down here, we acknowledge that, hey, maybe you're going to go to a For the Culture event, and then you're going to go get lunch over at Esther's Kitchen. And then maybe you want to go check out an art exhibit over near 18B area. So it's the collaboration that I think assists in building culture.
Yeah. No, through and through. It's the collaboration, and it's everybody building on top of each other, and it's all these energies combining. It's sick, you know, and it is like the Wild West because a lot of new things are coming in, and it's just always changing. But it's exciting right now because like now's the time to change, you know, like let's keep it going. Let's keep building this thing. And it's exciting to me because, all right, I think like it's kind of definitive, you know, the biggest and kind of the artist doing the most stuff around here is Recycle Propaganda, but I'm just as much excited for like what's next, you know, like who else is going to come on and do some insane murals and take over their own little piece of Main Street or something like that, right? Like
so interesting. Just like For the Culture, the headquarters is at the Union House, which is what street is that?
That's First Street.
First Street, and literally right across from you guys is like a small niche hotel that's being built.
Yeah,
like I would have never expected that. Literally right on Commerce Street.
Yeah, so that's the Hotel Chloe, and it's a little bit more than just like the boutique hotel, right? Like, so it's for sure the boutique hotel. But from what I understand and like how it's been described to me is they want to create that as a sort of anchor point, right? So if you go down over by First Street, there's a lot of, you know, older warehouses or what used to be mechanic shops or whatever, just things that are like closed down, derelict, just like, you know, not much happening. So they're building the Hotel Chloe, and that's supposed to be a sort of anchor point that brings people in, keeps them around here, and around there, you know, it just, the perimeter keeps going. They just took over a warehouse, and it's a new brewery. It's like right by the Hotel Chloe. I forgot what the name of it is, like Las Vegas Brewery or something.
There's a few breweries that are in this area now. There's 3, I believe.
Yeah. There's Nevada Brew Works. I think they just opened.
Yeah. There's Huddle right here.
Huddle looks cool.
There's Huddle. There's Able Baker, and then there's the one over by Chloe.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for real. And that's it's crazy. So I guess like, you know, that area is gonna change a lot, and I'm really excited for how it's supposed to change.
It's smart to have, because once this area begins to scale out, and people would always complain, and this is something that Sam Cherry reiterated, is even 5 years ago, the main reason why people didn't come down here is because they were afraid of the security for themselves.
Yeah.
Basically, they're afraid of the homeless population and getting robbed.
Yeah.
And there is some homeless people down here, but there's outreach agencies like Carrie Dodd, who I had on here, that have been assisting with that kind of epidemic that's been happening. And I guess just the renovation of the area has kind of erased that from down here.
Yeah,
so
in a way it has.
It's
really
cool to see, but having a hotel in the area where people are going to come down and are going to drink and party, they're going to want to have somewhere to stay, especially with like drunk driving happening down here and everything like that. Yeah. And I had Sam on here, and I tried to pitch him to build a grocery store down here. I was like,
what we need.
I was like, all we need is a grocery store. And he said that everyone, he's on the Nevada or the Las Vegas Planning Commission. And he said that everyone there is very aware of it. The only thing they're waiting on is for the numbers to improve in terms of the residents down here. Yeah. Because in order to build one, I guess they have to have a certain amount of residents in the area per square foot or something like that.
Yeah, no. Almost had a sneeze. Almost. I definitely agree with you. And that's something I think about too. Like, so many times I'm at the shop and I try to go to a grocery store, literally do a grocery store, and like the nearest one, I probably got to drive like 8 minutes or something, which isn't terrible. But, there should be something down here, like a grocery store, even a little market or something, delicatessen or something. That'd be fun. It'll
all come in time. I just say for the 5 months that I've lived down here, it's been even better than what I had expected. And just the personalities down here and the collaboration is fantastic. But I do want to go back a little bit to FTC and on your guys' expansion as well. Since I had Rex on a few months ago, he was just beginning the music journalism side For the Culture. He'd interviewed like 2 people. But since then, we've seen some things blossom up, like The Late Show, and you guys had a new partnership that you've announced. I even went over to you guys' office a little bit like a month ago and talked with you guys. So give all of us an explanation of kind of the headquarters of FTC and where the trajectory has been going.
Cool. So when we kind of left off, we were doing those underground shows and we were doing it. And so that's a year. If you scale it out, January 2019 to January 2020, what happens, right? It's coronavirus, the COVID, and, for better or worse. And that's like also another funny thing. It seemed worse in the beginning, but, life is funny. It works out in these ways. It's better, right? So, like, we couldn't do these underground shows, which is okay, because then it gave us opportunity to, like, free up the mental space and, like, free up our work to go start at headquarters, right? And then we started doing the video. Now, to give you an idea of, like, why we moved into media, it's like, all right, For the Culture, showing of Las Vegas culture, show the artistic will and expression of the culture. Can't do that how we did with these massive mini festivals, right? So now we got to put it online, and that's okay, because like, that's just the world, we're going into an online world. It's fun, and it's something we talked about, but we never really pulled the trigger on. It was like, eventually we're going to have to be on YouTube, and eventually we're going to have a website, and eventually all these things, but we weren't worried about it because we were just having so much fun making shows, and that was successful, and that was doing its thing. We're happy with it. So coronavirus happens, and then it was around, I would say, May of 2020. So me and Rex had been working on this already, and then it was once again outside of Madhouse, right? So we're outside of Madhouse Coffee, and then we're like, all right, literally just stand outside of his car, and we're like, if we're going to do it, like, we really got to do it. Like, there's no more talking about it. It's either For the Culture, we're going to go and try to do something insane, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be difficult, and we're going to fail a bunch, but it's going to be crazy, and there's a lot of opportunity. And, we came to the conclusion, we're like, all right, let's do it. So we started recording videos, and that was kind of just going, just starting. I believe in start small, then scale. So we start small. We're just working. And then it was only like a month later. I've been trying to get the spot at Union House with my buddy Numbskull Artist. He's involved in For the Culture. He does a lot of really tremendous work with us. He's an awesome guy too, right? So like, we're looking at the Union House spot for a while, but they wouldn't call us back because of the coronavirus. Maybe they're out of the office or whatever, right? But then one day I get a call. They're like, hey, we missed your call. And I was like, yeah, that was like a while ago.
You're like, one call? There should be 10 in there.
Yeah, no, like, all right, but what's going on? And literally, it was like a 1-day process. You know, as soon as it was available, we're like, all right, let's get it. We know that we need it. And then it just went crazy from there. We went in and it was literally, if you ever go to the For the Culture headquarters now, like we have all the shelves up and there's a big mural in there. There's a bunch of murals outside and all this stuff. But when we went and arrived there, it was just four white walls in the AC unit, right? And we were just in there. And For the Culture is a little group of team. It's like a brotherhood. It's like this, like, it's like this family of, I believe, like kind of insane people that keep trying stuff that's like kind of beyond us. You know, that's the big thing, is it's beyond us. So like now we're inside of this storefront and we're like, okay, now what? You know, like now what do? We need to record videos, and then we need to maybe put some merch up, and we need to make it feel comfortable and homey and whatnot. We started building, right? So that was Frank Wumbo. You can find him on Instagram at life_change. And he's like this master woodworker. He's been a woodworker literally since he was 12, right? So like, it's mind blowing the kind of things this guy can create, right? So he literally built our desk, built our shelving, built all this stuff. And then the For the Culture headquarters just came together, right? So, all right, that's all going. And then we start dropping more videos. And that was the hard part, because we didn't do videos. And it was really hard to figure out, like, how do we organize even before a video gets made, you know, making sure everybody gets there on time, and then like the camera and video guys are there, and then like the lighting's appropriate and everything's been thought of, because you don't want to be there waiting for an hour and a half because we're missing a cable or something, right? And that's definitely happened. You know, that kind of thing has definitely happened. So it was like this period from May until, you know, we're doing it May, June, July, probably like August, and we vocalized, and I vocalized it to the guys, you know, this is an experimentation time. You know, the worst thing that has happened, you know, buck up, because a lot worse is going to happen. You know, the worst mistake we've made, we're going to make a lot more of those. But like, that's part of like this whole process of growing and like learning this new thing and actually trying to be successful. The most important part is pushing ourselves to the next level, you know, because we could just sit there and do something easy, you know, just do like a baloney video, but that's not what we are. You know, I tell them, and this is, I think, how most people should operate, right? And it might make you go crazy, but like, we're coming in For the Culture and we're making the videos. And I told him, who's our competition, right? There is absolutely no competition other than maybe Vice News. There's like Vice and Vox and like.
And those are much larger scale. That isn't just specific to Vegas.
Much larger scale. So like, if we're really looking at like somebody like to go eye to eye with, toe to toe, it's like Vice Media, right? Like Vice Media, they've been in the game. They're really good at what they're doing. I watch them like a hawk and like try to understand everything that these people do, because then that informs us, right? But a part of that is operating like a $20 million organization, right? And that's a weird thing to tell this, like, so my crew, like, we're all younger people to an extent. We're between like 19 and 27. And I tell them, you know, we're definitely not a $20 million organization. But I'm like, all right, look.
You need to have that mindset, though.
If this is ever going to work, we have to look like a $20 million organization. Everybody on the outside has to look in and be like, you know, how do they get the funding for this? How are they making this happen? Whatnot? How is this possible? But it's just because we have a belief that we are worth that much money. We're worth so much money. You can't even fucking fathom it, you know, like it's impossible. And it speaks through as long as like we do our work right. You know, I talk to the video guys and it's like, all right, this is really, really good. But I tell them, I look them in the eyes, like, you gotta push it to the next level. Cause even if For the Culture dies, right? Like even if fucking, you know, Uncle Sam comes in and stops For the Culture, you guys have grown too strong. And like everybody has to like break apart, but then we're all winners. You know, at that point, everybody's a winner. Rex is a winner. All the video guys are winners. I'm a winner. We're just savages in our own right. And For the Culture doesn't even matter anymore. You know, like everybody, it's steel sharpens steel kind of scenario.
Yeah, the culture travels with you guys.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, no, it's.
So here, let me propose this. When I had spoken with Rex, you guys had started with music journalism.
Yes.
And to start For the Culture, you guys were tapping into the music culture, because it seems like when people think of culture, they associate it with music.
Yeah.
Did you guys approach it in this manner because you believe that culture begins with music, or do you believe that the music culture in Vegas is so overbearing and such an untapped market that it was the smart decision to go to?
It was a smart decision because it is overbearing. It's untapped. And if you look into it, you know, it's not, this is what it is. A lot of musicians are here that are absolutely incredible and tremendous. And there's no reason that like they're not on some sort of huge scale, right? Like they could go go with the best of them. If you take like a Saucy Downs, like he can go with the best of them. If you took like a Jack Flower, go with the best of them. There's Zerby, there's Marco, there's Lurk, there's the IPMG group. There's literally so many groups of musicians in the city who are incredibly talented, and not only just talented, but like they put their all into their work, you know? So that's where it started. And we're like, okay, there was a really lot of good opportunities there. But from the very beginning, we knew, you know, for the culture is a lot more than music. I mean, so we're still learning that, you know, we're still learning exactly what the culture is and what resonates with people and whatnot, you know. And that is an exciting thing about like a startup mindset is you experiment like crazy, you know, maybe
It's my favorite part, honestly.
You know, like the long form interviews that are like 12 minutes long with like super nice lighting and high production quality. You know, that's not really what everybody is super duper interested in and engaged in and wants to like go run and watch. And that's okay. You know, we tried them a few times, but now we're learning new ways, things that make people engage a little bit better. And I think actually makes people like happy to watch. Right.
Yeah. And just for point of clarification, all of these artists that you guys speak with and that you have on the Late Show, which we'll talk about, these are all independent, unsigned artists, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. For the most part. And there are some small groups going on in Vegas, but there's nothing, from what I understand, there's no like major industry backing for any of it. It's just all groups of people that are really, really serious about what they're doing and have a lot of belief in Las Vegas. And, you know, they make small groups of their own, but for the most part, everybody's independent. And, you know, it's.
Yeah. And so you want to be a hub for these artists to come in, express themselves through the Late Show, which we'll talk about. Rex actually started his own show through For the Culture, which is similar to like the Late Show, the talk shows that you have where an artist comes on and they perform one of their songs and then they get like a dope interview. And it's very well put together by, I believe his name is Half Mutant.
Yeah,
right?
Half Mutant Productions, Films. His name is Josh.
Incredible work.
Savage.
Yeah. And I think that's such a cool feature to have because you guys are embracing where society is going in this digital ecosystem where everything is going to be hosted on, especially in a time where you can't have events that you guys were kind of gaining your ground on. So to be able to have those and host them in that type of foray that gets them exposure, it's just a net benefit to both sides.
Yeah, net benefit to both sides for sure. And I guess one of the early things that we did kind of have an inspo about is a lot of musicians take their craft so seriously and work so hard at this that like they deserve some sort of really good shine, you know, whether it's like a really high production quality in the beginning, you know, and like we're still not there, you know, we're still not huge impressions and all this, but like at least they deserve something quality, you know, and they could share it amongst themselves and then like it gives them a little bit more credence and whatnot. They could put it on their EPK or do whatever like that. But yeah, definitely we have a very large respect for people who are like working really hard, pushing themselves to the limit, pushing their creative abilities to the limit.
Yeah, you guys are sharing credibility with each other and it gives them some sort of shareability for whatever their craft is. And I think that that's really important because when you're building something, I forget who said this, but no matter if you have a mom and pop pizza shop or if you're Tim Cook running Apple, if you're working hard, you're going to work 80 hours per week or maybe even more into perfecting your craft. So you want to be able to show this off because you're definitely putting the time in, but you're not receiving the credibility of something like an Apple or, you know, Kanye West or whoever your industry is. Mm-hmm. So that's very beautiful to see and that you were able to recognize that. How do you guys go about approaching artists? Is there something, here, let me rephrase this. Was there a way to search local artists in order to connect with them? Was it more of a referral network? And now do people reach out to you?
Yeah. So, and when it first began, it was like impossible, you know, it was impossible to get people involved in this thing. The first 2 or 3 shows, it was hard, right? It was really hard. But after that, you know, once we proved ourselves and proved to everybody like we're capable and like we're doing something good, then that started to come in. And then when at some point I made the Google form, and then it was like this document where people can like sign up. I do this, I do that. I want to be involved. That was super cool. We got, you know, hundreds of responses on that. But like the true place that the majority of like when we pick a musician to be a part of a show or to put onto the internet or to record, or if we pick an artist to go hang out with and take to Goodwill or like a skateboarding thing, whatever it would be, is it's really just like eyes and ears to the street, right? And I think that's what made us successful in the beginning to an extent, is like as part of the obsessiveness, right? Like it might sound crazy, but like I watch the Las Vegas, like social media, Instagram scene like a hawk. I really don't think, like, if a new musician pops up, I'm the first to find it. I don't care. I'm the first to find it. And you could tell, right? Because there's the mutuals and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Like even then I'm sitting on a few that people don't even realize are here in Vegas, right? But it's definitely watching. It's definitely watching. And if you're worth your salt, we'll find you eventually. It's not going to take us too long. If you're a skateboarder that's doing some really crazy stuff, you could bet I've probably seen your videos and I'm probably kind of looking at you. Or if you're a musician, Rex is doing the same thing. Or if you're a painter, maybe it's Numbskull or Life Change, and they're doing the same thing. They're thinking about bringing you out for a mural or something. But yeah, it's like the people that are really special, we're watching them.
So as you're observing these different cultural, I guess, personalities within the city, mm-hmm. what other untapped markets do you see in Vegas that haven't received the type of recognition that they should in terms of industries? You mentioned skateboarding, painters, which is kind of artistic, mm-hmm. and then musical performers. What other aspects do you see in Vegas?
Yeah, okay. I could try to, I'll segment out the culture a little bit. There is a graffiti culture here that I think is, and graffiti is a weird one because especially with older people, it's like, oh, they're destroying property and whatnot.
Fucking taggers.
Yeah, fucking taggers. But like, there also is like a certain beauty to it. And I think there is a little bit of a contract. If you have property in the middle of like an urban area, somebody's probably going to draw on it eventually, and it might as well be nice drawing. That's kind of my mindset on it. So like the graffiti people, they go crazy. And there's a shop down here called Legendaries. It's really super close to here. So there's this entire like graffiti like subculture that's been going that's insane. And then on top of that, like, have you seen a Graffiti Park?
No, I have not. Where is that?
You got to connect with these guys. So it's Graffiti Park, and they don't literally have a park yet. From what I understand, they want to one day have a park, but what they're doing is they're getting a bunch of Vegas artists, physical artists, painters and stuff, and then they're taking them to Vegas schools, and then like the Boys and Girls Club over like on MLK, I think, and literally every weekend they're doing a different Vegas school or YMCA, painting the entire inside with murals from local Las Vegas painters, right? And that's a big thing. That's kind of what we need. We need more painters from around the city showing out. I need to see their murals everywhere. Next thing, probably some sort of food, like it's obvious, we are a culinary hotspot, as weird as that is, being in the middle of the desert, right? But I don't know, there's just like something about the food here in Las Vegas. Maybe it's because it's such a cultural place. Everybody comes from so many different places, and then they want their traditional food here, and you can find it. Mm-hmm. If you go down to Chinatown, that's been one of my favorite things the past couple of months, is I just go down to Chinatown, I'll park, and I'll just say, all right, that one today.
Yeah, you could literally, there's hundreds of restaurants down there, and some that are just so hidden.
And it's delicious, right? But you can kind of do that, and if you go over to the east side, you're going to find some crazy stuff. Like Mario's, you go a little bit north, you're going to get some good stuff. You go a little southwest, you get some good stuff. You come down here and there's a ton of good stuff.
There's a ton, dude. A ton. Esther's Kitchen, Tacotarian, all these different restaurants down here.
Like, so it's like a foodie, and that's the crazy thing about Vegas. Like Vegas, it doesn't make sense, man. It's like, all right, so it's like this foodie capital, and I think the foodie stuff's going to go even bigger, especially like as people are getting more into like the craft stuff and the artisanal stuff, and like,
and they're bringing celebrity chefs down here as well, and some lesser known ones as well.
Just the vibe is going, and it's not going to be too long until like so if you look at like the New York, right? Like a New York kitchen scene, like the Anthony Bourdain, I suppose, like maybe in the mid 90s, right? And then like maybe on a very certain part of town, a new chef will arrive and like he'll set the thing on fire for 6 months. Like, we're not that far from that happening here in Vegas, like maybe just play with Esther's Kitchen. Maybe like some chef comes to Esther's Kitchen. Their food is already phenomenal, don't get me wrong. But like,
it's amazing.
But he adds some sort of tartar, right? Then next thing you know, the line's out the fucking door or something. Like, we're not that far from like localized cultural celebrities in a way, people that really matter to like what the city is.
Yeah, that's localized cultural figures.
There we go.
That's something that hadn't realized yet, but there aren't too many out there that are at least in our generation. So that's also going back to the Wild Wild West kind of style where people are butting heads to become these cultural figures and icons, because I guess Sam Cherry was kind of one, Jonathan's Jostle's been one, and there's a few other businessmen, but there isn't that many that receive a lot of recognition outside of just being like an Instagram influencer.
Yeah. And the only musician I think maybe that's like starting to bridge that gap, or pre-COVID, was Mike Xavier. He's doing really awesome stuff, even like down with the link. But yeah, entirely like these cultural figures, they haven't like shown through exactly yet. And like, I guess to touch on something else real quickly, it's like this difference in how the culture operates now. Culture as like a whole, you know, culture bigger than Vegas, but like how culture operates now compared to like 2000, right? Like, so if you go before 2000, you get like 10-year generational epochs. You get like the 60s, 70s, the 80s, the 90s. And then inside of those epochs, you get like media monoculture figures. Like you get a Madonna or a Michael Jackson, or, you know, all these people that everybody knows, you know, they're part of the monoculture. It is a single culture.
Justin Bieber.
Right? Somewhere like in 2000, like I think like 12, maybe, I don't know, 14, there's like a switch, you know, and it feels a lot less that there's now monoculture figures, but now everybody has their own celebrities, right? And like you could even see that with Joe Rogan. Every person he brings on is in a sense a celebrity.
Yeah, it's called the Joe Rogan effect.
Yeah. Yeah, the Joe Rogan effect, right? But they're all so niched down that they become celebrities for these small little pockets of groups. And then, you know, that's all a celebrity is these days. It's like everybody has their own celebrities, you know. It's we change in that regard. But Vegas figures and like these people, they're going to start coming up, and it's going to be a really beautiful thing to see, you know. And I don't think it's going to be too cutthroat of a thing. I really think it's going to look more like there is a cultural revolution going on in Vegas, and not just one, or two or three, but like 6 dope painters come out of the city, right? Like something crazy. And then they go all around the nation, and then everybody's seeing like, whoa, what's going on in Vegas? And at the same time, musicians are doing it. And it's going to be crazy.
Interesting. That resonates with me because I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy, and you see this happen time and time again of different places, more specifically in New York or LA. A lot of these comedic figures, we'll use Joe Rogan, for example, again, when he was going to the Comedy Store, Tom Segura was going there, Bert Kreischer, what's his name? There's like 5
Joey Diaz was there.
Joey Diaz, a lot of them. And this was 20 years ago during what he called the comedy golden age. Yeah. And now you look and they're all individual cultural figures, but they were all in the same place at one time. Yeah. And then when they all get together and talk on his podcast, everyone's like, these guys were all in the same spot 20 years ago. Yeah. Like that sounds fucking insane. It doesn't seem real.
It doesn't seem real at all. And that's also a special thing about Vegas, because that's going to happen here. You know, there's going to be people that like come into the scene for a little bit and then they get out or whatever, but there's going to be like a lot of people that stay here for a while, and then they just create the Vegas culture, and then it's just going to be forever until they die, essentially, you know. Fucking, yeah, it's going to be a cool thing. It's really, really exciting. That's the thing. And especially like when I first came here, like in 7th grade, this wasn't here, you know, and even then I was younger, so I couldn't perceive it as well, but I knew for sure it was like just the Strip, kind of that kind of thing. And then like, as I started to get more and more in tune and familiar with down here in the Arts District, it's like magic. You know, it's really like magic.
It's because there's nowhere really else in the city to go and build culture. There's the Strip, there's downtown, and then throughout the city you have the Strip extensions of the individual casinos. You know, Red Rock, Green Valley Ranch, Sam's Town. They're all in the different areas, but those aren't specifically cultural spots. Those are just extensions of the Strip, and more like of just being
big commercial spaces.
Yeah, you know, big commercial spaces. So there's no hot spots for people to go around and really experiment. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go to Town Square, and you know, you can't rent out spaces like that down there.
Town Square and paint a mural.
And when you go into Summerlin, one of my buddies. Yesterday, I made a post on Twitter saying that there's no community that even compares to the downtown area. And he said Summerlin. And I was like, Summerlin is such a tight-knit community that they have to separate every community with a 10-foot fence. Like that's not, you don't see that down here, you know, like it's open borders. They want you to experiment with each other. And it's really just something you can't mimic across the city.
Yeah, through and through. And this idea just kind of hit me, but I think maybe it also has to do with how the streets are lined up down here. Because if you think about it, I was playing with it real quick. And I was like, all right, what if we put a cultural spot next to UNLV? And I'm like, no, that wouldn't really work. Maryland doesn't work like that. Like, it's too busy of a street. But there's just something really cool about like these like 4 or 5 streets down here that feel walkable. Like the walkability index is super high. And it's just like, it's cool. You can hang out down here. You can start on one and then go walk somewhere else and then go get food. And like, it's not tiring. It's not scary. It's cool.
There's a lot of open accessibility when it comes to, for freedom of walking. And there's a lot of renovation that's happening down here as well. You see Vegas is really good at tearing down the old shit and building something brand new within its spot. Yeah. But the cool thing of downtown is that instead of doing that, they do tear some things down, but they want to try to keep the old vibe of Vegas intact. So they basically keep the building structure and then they just like gut the entire thing and build something new with inside of it. So it feels like old Vegas, but also on the cutting edge of culture.
Yeah, no, through and through. And I think like a good example of that's the Arts Factory. I guess back in the day it used to be like some sort of moratorium or crematorium. It was something spooky, right? And then now it's just like the Arts Factory and completely switched it up, and that it explains why the building isn't set up in that weird way. Mm-hmm. But that is pretty special that Vegas is able to do that.
Yeah, it's not like a grid. Most of the city is just square 90-degree angle grids. Yeah. But here there's a little bit more loopiness to it.
Yeah, some angles, you got some one ways and stuff.
Interesting. So I do want to touch back on this cultural renaissance of public figures because that's just a paradigm that I hadn't even thought of within the city. Mm-hmm. We'd mentioned food figures, and there's artistic figures, and then we have musical figures and graffitis. Are there any other industries that come to mind that are growing out here that haven't received a lot of recognition?
Yeah. Okay. You could take it I would even call it gamers, All right, so there's gamers, people that are really into like video gaming, like as a thing, and you could even see there's a bunch of different LAN shops like around town, like where people can like game together.
Oh, like e-lounges?
E-lounges and stuff like that, right? So I would say gaming to an extent. Deeper than that, I see like a lot of really sick car culture too. All right, so the car culture, motorbike culture, that's going crazy. If you like took it over to the east side, and a lot of people aren't even realizing it, but like there's like an east side, like Chicano, like I don't even know how to, east side Chicano movement of just like being proud of your heritage that is way more powerful over on the east side of Las Vegas than like anywhere else in the nation. And I guess one of my pieces of evidence for that is like, have you heard of Food's Gone Wild?
No, what is that?
Food's Gone Wild is essentially like a conglomerate page for like funny like Mexican and like Spanish stuff, like it's like a world star hip hop type thing. But like there's a tagger out here, I think his Instagram's called like Yamatame or it's something, right? But his thing is tortas, right? And it's like a Mexican sandwich. And I've seen the tortas tag like on the internet get shared on like big conglomerate pages and whatnot constantly, right? And then if you go into it, they have this artistic direction that's like really reminiscent of traditional like Chicano stuff that I think is next level. I think that in its own right, the East Side stuff is going to blow up and it's going to inform kind of like this Mexican and like Chicano revolution across the nation. That's kind of what I believe. And it's all just starting with like a bunch of kids that are like skateboarding and making really sick graphics and like have like a mission, be proud of yourself over on the East Side that like people don't realize. But like, I don't know if you're watching, you're going to see it. And yeah, they're doing something over there.
Man, I love the East Side. I'm actually from the East Side.
Really?
Yeah, I went to Chaparral High School. So right next to Woodbury is where I grew up. Gets a lot of flack. If you ever look at like the Vegas memes or when Las Vegas locally shares stuff and they compare the different regions of the city, everyone always makes fun of the East Side for some reason.
Yeah, the East Side gets flack. I guess the North Side gets some flack. They don't get flack in their special funny way. Like the Southwest is like kind of like seeing like a bunch of nerds. And stuff. That's like kind of where I'm from, right? And that's also funny. People are always like, first like, oh, what part of town you from? Or like this or that. Oh, I'm from the East Side. I'm like, oh yeah. From the Southwest. Me and my friends are from the Southwest, way deep on Blue Diamond.
Yeah, that's a ever evolving area. It's growing. That's growing pretty fast.
Crazy. That area is insane. Every time I go over there, because like, all right, now I live more West Side, but every time I go more South, it's like 2-month intervals or whatever, and there's like new stuff. There's like a bunch of new 7-Elevens. There's like a bunch of new streets, and yeah, they're not stopping. They're going crazy down there.
Have you ever thought of moving down into the downtown area and completely immersing yourself? Or do you think it's important to separate yourself and kind of breathe and live on a different side of the city?
It's coming. Yeah. Sooner or later, it's coming. And like one of the harder parts for me is like I'm still pretty young, you know, so like I'm figuring out literally everything. So right now, like I live with my family. It's me, my sister, my niece. We have like a nice family unit. So I definitely want to figure out how they could be good once I exit and move on my own, like make sure they have safety and whatnot and everything's good there. But eventually, yeah, I will be maybe like in a building like this, or I don't really care, to be honest. I like the Jewel. We used to live in the Jewel and those are very nice. I like the lower ones.
Yep. Jewel's nice. I can tell you from experience as somebody who's completely immersed himself in an organization. I lived in a fraternity house for 2.5 years. And those 2.5 years, man, they were some of the best memories that I ever created and helped push me forward to become the person that I am today. Just completely going all in on something, man. There's not really much that can compare to it, especially from an introspective level where you're like, all right, I'm cutting out all the distractions and I'm clearing out this path. And maybe if the path is filled, I'm digging my way into something of a spectacle.
Yeah. Yeah, no, certainly. And it is funny that you touched just a second there, like on taking things away, right? It's like when you become fully immersed and you take away the other things that are around you that are taking away your immersion from whatever your goal is, like it's really special. And it's like, there's this idea that I want people to think more about, and it's called via negativa. And essentially means like addition through subtraction, right? Like people are so focused on like, even for the culture, I got to remind myself so much. It's like, all right, for the culture, we're doing really, really good. What more could we be doing, right? Like, all right, what could we add on top of this and that? But like, I got to stop myself and think, all right, what could we take away? You know, what could we take away that would, in the end, make us better, right? And it's, and you even, have you heard of the Pareto principle, the 80-20?
Yes, I have actually, but can you expand on it for the listeners?
Yeah, so the Pareto principle is essentially, it's like, and it's really weird, you know, this kind of made me question reality a lot, because it's like how it's this mathematical principle that like, and everything breaks down into 80-20. So if you take an organization, 20% of the workers are going to be doing 80% of the work, or you can break the organizations like fiscally apart. 20% of the offerings are going to make 80% of the money. 80% of the offerings are only going to make 20% of the money. So it's like it's really like, it's not equal.
Yeah, they use this principle in finance where they say 20% of your investments is going to create 80% of your wealth.
Right. And it's like, it's this weird thing. For whatever reason, the 80-20 kind of works across all these different domains, which freaks me out. You know, it shouldn't. You know, it's 80-20. It shouldn't work everywhere, but it does. And for that, like, we have to remind ourselves a lot, you know, all right, so for the culture, we do like 12 different things. You know, maybe I'll go talk to the team after this and be like, all right, let's get rid of 6 of them. If we're going to get rid of 6 of them, what are the 6 that got to stay? You know, and that's
interesting, because you want to pretty much double and triple down on what's working.
Yeah, entirely. And it's on one hand, it's also this idea of like anti-fragility, right? So like we're all separated. You could see like this big network, and like if one piece of the network is, everything's too reliant on one node, and then like that one node gets knocked out, the entire network's going to fall apart, right? But if we can create like 6 really sweet nodes, it doesn't matter if one gets blown up. You know, one could it could be gone forever. And then the other 5 kind of just, you know, create that anti-fragile framework, and then they connect with each other.
You're speaking decentralization romance to me.
Yeah, no, fully.
I love it. That's the node network. That's a crypto reference, but also a lot of other references as well to basically, society needs to get away from centralizing information, centralizing power, centralizing interest, and expanding it into the delegation, whether it's your employees or your community or anything like that. Because I think the way that society is progressing, we're beginning to realize that it's a numbers game. And if we instill or enthrall multiple people with the same information or verification power or something like that, then we basically just harden the community. Yeah, no, entirely. It's it is in a sense kind of like that numbers game. I don't know. All right, so there's a saying, and it's Gil Scott-Heron, and he goes, you know, he has a song and it goes, the revolution will not be televised, right? And that was the 70s paradigm of, right, when it's the revolution, they're not going to put it on the TV. We got to go out and do it, right?
But I think the new paradigm, the 2020 version, is like the revolution will not be centralized.
Yes.
Right. Like,
yes.
and like the centralization, and it's weird. It's another, like, it's like 80-20, you know, like it's too right in too many different ways to be like real, you know, like, decentralization. I think centralization is kind of a prison, but it's also weird because like centralization is how a lot of great stuff happens. Like it's like it's like this Greek. It's a Greek war. It's between like Apollo and Dionysus, and Apollo is like this like centralized figure, and it's essentially like the human, you know, like we're gonna do it this way, and it's very strict and like rigid, and it's also anti-fragile. You know, things that are rigid are anti-fragile.
That's why authoritarian regimes actually, you know, they're cruel towards humanity, but they actually get shit done because they're coming down.
Yeah. And it gets really, really weird, dude. And that's the hard part. And then you got to kind of just align yourself on, it's like, all right, do I want to line up with freedom, or do I want to line up with more of like a prison structure, you know? And I like the decentralized freedom route. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially like,
it's just
how it should work.
Yeah. I think you could probably relate to this as well. It's like when you're running a business, the hardest part of running a business isn't actually operating the business. It's managing people.
Yeah.
Managing willpower and their thoughts and their emotions. And once you expand that out and now you have to manage 50 people and decentralize, it's tough because there's no way in hell that all 50 people are going to be on the same page at the same time. It's more about managing by percentages.
Yeah. Managing by percentages. And like, I really believe in delightful systems. You know, things that are good should be easy and delightful and should just work. And if it doesn't work, then it's not good, you know? And like, trust me, there's been plenty of situations where like communication breakdowns and for the culture, people to understand what they're doing and these things. And like, it's just a reminder, like it's got to get more delightful. Like the systems have to be just clearer. There shouldn't be any like question, you know? And like, especially for people that are going and like creating their own business and creating their own structures and these things, like, if you build a rotten system and like a really rotten foundation and you try to build on top of that, you're going to sink. The entire thing's going to crumble, you know, and especially it's going to be a really terrible crumble if you make it to be a skyscraper on a really bad foundation. That's going to be ugly, you know, but if early on you could feel your foundation's a little funky and then maybe kind of change some things up.
It's easier then. It's easier to, if you only have one layer, it's easier to fix it and basically repurpose it than it is if you've already stacked on it. And that's something that I reiterate a lot, is that a lot of times when you're building something, you want to raise to the top of this pyramid because you see it, you know, you want to sit on that throne, but the longest time you have to dedicate towards that base foundational layer, because sometimes you don't realize how wide this pyramid has to go, or this base. So sometimes it takes years to build it. And then you're like, all right, I think now it's time to go up to that second layer and then start building inwards. But it's tough to know until you make that decision to move forward.
For real. And even then, I think it almost gets impossible to know. Like there's this idea, and it comes from this guy. His name is Nassim Nicholas Taleb. You might have seen him. Yes,
I've read Black Swan.
Okay, exactly, right? So it's like, refresh me, where were we at?
Taleb building a foundation.
So the foundational, the
fragility.
I don't know, I lost
Black Swan.
Lost where I was going.
Well, I know Nassim Taleb, it depends which book you're referencing, but the Black Swan, he talks about the Black Swan events, which are like these events that you can never predict happening.
Yes, prediction, right? So we were talking about prediction, and it's hard to know when you're going to go on to the next layer of your pyramid, right? Like you're building layer one of your pyramid, and it's like, when should we go to the next and whatever? And Black Swan, it changed my thinking, because it made me think, you know, you can't predict these things. And if you ever do predict them, then you're getting into even then a prison structure, you know? And like, if you look at successful people, a lot of the biggest, most successful people, they'll tell you, you know, what was their one mistake, the one place they messed up, and it was not setting their goals high enough, right? And like, that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, I can't even begin to question where my goal is, because I know it's not going to be high enough. You know, I know I need to set it higher. But then it comes down to the Black Swan stuff, where it's like, right, minimize the opportunity for a negative downside, maximize the opportunity for the positive upside. Keep doing that over and over again, and you don't really have to predict. You just do good.
You have to be pretty much risk averse at that point. And in Black Swan, the famous analogy that he makes is called 1001 Days as a Turkey. Do you remember that?
Where on the 1,001st day, they're going to get you.
Yeah, on the 1,001st day, because basically through the first 1,000 days of this turkey's life, he was fine. And then all of a sudden, Americans were like, well, we're going to make Turkey the face of Thanksgiving. And now their life is miserable because they're in mass genocide in the Turkey populace. And that's something that can never be predicted. So
it'll never be predicted. And even like with For the Culture, we're meeting success and, like the metrics are going up in a good exponential way. But what if it all stopped like tomorrow? We have to really consider that possibility because that's the only way to be impervious to that possibility. Everybody else is going to think, like with all businesses, we're going to keep growing forever. Everything's going to be perfect. Nothing's ever going to go wrong. But you got to consider what if everything goes wrong, and then when everything does go wrong, you have some opportunity. You might survive, Yeah,
that's just like what you see happen with economic downturn, right? Like this is when they printed more money and they found out a lot of these businesses were just issuing stock buybacks and they didn't have any money. And they were not prepared for it at all. It was all an artificial farce per se.
Yeah. And even to touch a little bit back on something you said in the very beginning where everybody's kind of winging it. And it is entirely an artificial farce. That's something else that people have to understand, right? Like for the most part, everybody is just still figuring it out, and Steve Jobs touched on it really nicely. He goes, I guess at some point during like his intellectual development, he came to this point where he realized everything around him, this whole structure of reality was built by people no smarter than himself. And they're all doing the same thing. They're just figuring it out. So once you kind of got that, and you're like, all right, nobody's more special than me. Nobody's, the one, if anything, like I might be the one. I have some opportunity in me, being alive is this opportunity. That's how I kind of see it. Then yeah, you could do anything. It's like you make the iPhone, like that's insane. That's something else too. I think the iPhone got beamed down. I think it's like some sort of alien tech or something. I think Jobs is working with the alien.
The iPhone, pretty much, I guess smartphones in general, that just opened up a whole new reality. That's like social media would be non-existent without the smartphone. I remember having a Twitter in 2009 when the smartphones were first created, and you had to wait to go home to tweet, or you had to text to 40404.
Yeah, you text the thing and you would post your tweet.
Like that's literally all it was. It was just text communication. But now you have communication on all sorts of levels. Now it's mental communication. You're communicating through images and trading and all these different things that are leveraged on top of a smartphone.
And even then, like the smartphone space and like this age of information space and the age of sharing space, it's like it's so brand new. It's like the Wild West. There's so much that's going to come from like we've barely, in my opinion, begun to perceive what's going to happen. And obviously it's going to be huge. Obviously like the human race is not going to be the same. But like, all right, so Gary Vee said it in this way. He was like, all right, everybody says like, all right, the phones changed us. The phones changed us. But what he says is the phones exposed us, right? Like the phones just did nothing more than expose what humans really are. And they give us that opportunity to like do truly what we want, and what most people want is just to kind of be brain dead, kind of scrolling shit, And so it's like, it's not a bad thing or anything, but just exposed us. And what I don't think people are realizing is like the data set and the information that we're getting right now is insane. Cause like, if you look at somebody like even like Andrew Carnegie, right? So like he went and got the Bessemer steel process. Like how he became a billionaire was he got this new steel process from England. So he had to get a new piece of information, bring it back to where he was in America. Then he created a steel empire, right? But if you scale that out, now we're in the internet, and you can get pieces of information that are like, just as novel as the Bessemer process, just with like Google searches. Like the amount of information that you can now string together, just like the guy was talking about, where you take 3 different product skills, you make your stack, and then you get something really crazy. Now it's like, on one hand, the data set, you can start to understand like how humans are actually thinking. You can go underneath, like on Instagram, you see an ad, go into the comments on that ad and read like 30 of the comments, and you can literally start to see how the psychologies of like these people are working, and it's like, That's insane. Imagine if Nietzsche had that, right? Imagine if Jung had that. Imagine if like Isaac Newton had what we got. It's insane. And that's what's fucking like really exciting to me, is like anything could happen.
The evolution and the adaptation curve and the technological innovation curve is accelerating at this point. It's becoming an exponential curve upwards. It's not that there is no more linear trajectories anymore. And more specifically, I pin this to always revert it back to crypto, but in traditional finance and stocks and currencies, when you're charting things, it's a linear curve. But when it comes to crypto, it's an exponential curve, and how you measure where you are on the cycle. But now you take that exponential curve and you can measure it to society on a technological software level. And then where are we on that curve? And I think we're just like at the very beginning of that curve.
No, entirely. We're entirely in the very beginning of this curve. And you know, what is reality going to look like in like 30 or 40 years? That's a weird question. And it's like kind of a scary question. And it goes against Nassim, because that's such a weird thing to predict. I can't even predict.
You can barely predict a few years.
You know, I can't even predict like what's how many. I walked up here with you. I should be able to predict exactly what the concrete looks like outside, but I absolutely can't. You know, I just don't have that information, you know? So I guess skilling stuff out in that far. But I have a few hopes for reality and like for humanity and what happens, the decentralized stuff, you know. And I think I want to see a lot more decentralization, not even just like, all right, there's the money stuff, but even like how towns are, right? Mm-hmm. Like Vegas's like arts district is almost just like its own town. It's like its own decentralized, centralized place inside of this city, right? But like, I really hope that the rest of reality goes that way. You know, like all of our celebrities and even politicians, there's an old saying, and it's like a politician should be close enough to kick, you know, like they should be close enough that the populace that they're governing or whatever, it should be able to literally kick them in behind if they start to act up and be bad. But I hope people see that. And I think with crypto, they're starting to change. That's brought the whole decentralization phenomena to the mainstream. Yeah. Because before that, nobody was talking about decentralization. You know, even I had no idea. All right, so like if you start in crypto, like you kind of get it, you know, like, all right, we're moving money around without the government. Then like you start to see like how it really works. It's like, all right, like we are the government, but like we can't.
And we're verifying it through each other.
Literally, it's a perfect kind of system of democracy as long as nobody owns like too many nodes or whatever. But like it works really, really nicely. And then like they've dealt with problems like I'm not too deep on it, but
but like 51% attacks and forking,
and then you know, the Byzantine and
fault tolerance possible, and it has game theory tied in it.
It gets insane, and it's really fun. It's really, really fun.
I think we will see the decentralization adoption extend to more than just finance. But I think the way that society is progressing, one thing has remained true is that human beings, we are social creatures, and the pandemic's kind of highlighted that with mental health awareness. But the way that we're connecting, it's becoming more and more in depth, right? Like the way to connect 200 years ago was through the telegram, then it was the radio, then it was the TV, then it became the newspaper, and then it was books, and now it's social media. Yeah. And so these conversations become more finite. Then it was podcasting. So it's like, what's next? What is it? Virtual reality that gets leveraged on each other? It's artificial reality. What is the next? Is it telepathy? Like there's so many different communicative patterns that can happen. It's just how will society leverage that on top of each other?
Entirely. And I think it's going to be really interesting, like watching how it goes forward, and especially all these different ways that people are creating, just different ways to communicate and support each other. But what I think is going to be interesting is like, there will be some sort of like with the new celebrities and like this new, to me, it's like a religion, right? Like everybody is kind of segmenting into their own religions. Like some people are becoming like I was a vegan and I was very religious about it, but like any care, you know, even like culture or like cryptocurrencies or vegan or bodybuilding.
Yeah, tribalism's coming out.
It's extreme. It's an extreme religious environment. But what I'm really excited for is like, all right, on one hand, that's okay, because I think humans are on one hand like a little bit of a religious creature. That's why we keep going to that thing, you know, making our own religions. But I'm excited for what kind of communication styles and like what the possibilities are with new religions and with new thought leaders in a sense. And like the thing is, like, you can't just follow thought leaders and stuff. Like, you're gonna go wrong. You know, not everybody knows everything. But like, you touch on telepathy, and like maybe it's ways of building communication systems that border on telepathy because we understand the same things. Like even the decentralized thing is almost a telepathy because you've done enough reading on it. I've done enough reading on it. We could literally talk about, I could be like, what do you think? You're a Byzantine general. I'm a Byzantine general. And we know what that means, but party 3 has no clue. They literally are thinking about generals or something, right? But like it becomes like a telepathy thing where like it's breaking. I don't even know how to describe it because it's like an information throughput. You know, with the Telegram, you have so much speed, and you get writing so much speed. Books, you get so much speed. The social media is quick as fuck, and like what's next is like.
Yeah, that's why
breaking through almost. I don't know.
Yeah,
what's gonna happen.
People get so attached to that communicative pattern that on social media you sit there and you just keep hitting refresh, even though you're on the latest tweets and no one's tweeting. But you're like, I need more, I need more, I need more.
And that is a weird one. I don't know why that works. I think I read on the internet once that it's like something about humans. We really like new information, and then that's almost like it's like a slot machine of new info.
It's because of the amount of bits of information that we're processing, and it's something that you touched on. Like Nietzsche, he was only processing the information that was directly in front of him because that's all he had access to. But now we're processing thousands or hundreds of thousands of bits of information per second. But if the communicative exponential curve is increasing, eventually that's going to go into the millions or tens of millions or billions of bits of information. And at that point, what do? Do you just are you in like a virtual reality where your physical body is processing information and also your virtual reality extension of yourself is processing information?
I would say at one point, yeah, it's going to get weird like that. And then there's probably some people are going to have to make the decision where instead of maybe it's through the neural link or whatever, that they're processing so much information. I think that if you scale it back, like in a Nietzsche perspective, right? Like he had a lot of ideas and he had a lot of stuff going on in his head, but a lot of it was kind of like an inside thing. And that's one thing I believe too, is like for the most part, basically any answer or question or any piece of information is like kind of already inside of you, like whether it's in the unconscious or like however it works. I don't know. Something's in there though. You know, something's in there. And there's it's a Musashi quote, or it's like this thing this guy Musashi said, and he goes, from one thing, learn 10,000 things. And I think, and that's the via negativa. You know, so don't learn 10,000 things to learn 10,000 things. Look at one single thing and think about it for so long that you learn 10,000 things, right? So then we're going to have these group of people that are like so fucking like amped up and like charged up with all this like processing and shit. And then there's going to be another group of people that is going to have to completely like say no to that.
You have to balance them out. Have to be a yin to the yang.
Yeah, there's going to be a group of people that is like fucking like classical maximalism, basically, like the cottagecore stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Have you seen cottagecore?
No, what is that?
It's this new thing, and it's happening amongst young kids, which is really crazy. It's like the new scene is cottagecore, and it's essentially, it's like a return to tradition, which is weird. Like usually that's not what kids want to do, but like now they're posting pictures of like, oh, let's go have a family in like a cottage and have like 8 kids and stuff, and it's like, wow, it's a really crazy counterculture to be happening. Mm-hmm. But
it's because they're opting out. They think it's too much information for them to process.
It's opting out, you know, and I think a lot of people are going to be opting out, whether it's like homestead living or like even in politics. Like from what I'm seeing, like the more extreme you kind of get in politics, it just comes. People are leaving the cities.
Some more polarization,
and they're leaving the cities, bro. Like the cities are a thing of the past, especially with it's remote work nationalism. Now you can do your things on the computer, you know. With Corona, it even exposed it deeper. Now Twitter, like I know Twitter, they're talking about, I don't know if it's still like this, but they're talking about remaining remote work, and it makes sense because if the same output is there, and then you don't have to spend money on these offices, it's like
it's a win for both parties. The employer doesn't have to pay for commercial real estate. The employee doesn't have to spend time commuting. They get to spend more time with their family. Yeah. They're more comfortable. Like I do way more work here in my apartment than I did having to go work somewhere else, or even being on campus and having to go to a classroom to learn. Mm-hmm. That's why I hate remote working. But there's a give and take to that, where it's like, when it becomes more heroic, then you're disassociating the social aspects of the social creatures. So it's like, how do you find that balance?
All right. Do you want to be honest with you here?
Do it.
Okay. Look, I usually don't tell people this, but we need to ban roads.
Roads?
Roads. Like the roads, like 4th Street and shit, like we need to get rid of them.
So what do we do with the cars?
We need to get rid of those too.
Do you want everyone to revert back to bikes, walking?
Venice system, where you create everything that a human would need within about 1.5 miles or 3 miles of their house. So it's decentralizing the way cities are built, right? Now the only roads that should exist kind of are the ones that interconnect cities. And even then railroads are going to be a lot more useful, I think, in the future for that. But yeah, like if I personally think like if we got rid of roads, made extremely well-designed and intelligent cities that are like, they promote a few things. They promote intentional interpersonal relationships. So, you know, places where you could sit down and have a coffee with somebody that's like intentionally thought to be put there because it's going to be beautiful how it faces the sunset, right? Building cities in that kind of way, I think is going to like refresh the human spirit instead of having to look at asphalt 24/7.
Yes. And this would entice building culture too, because now people, you don't have to even think about leaving a 3 mile area.
Yeah. And because, all right. And it sounds like a really kooky idea, right? Like, all right, let's get rid of the roads, forget the roads, right? But from what I understand, there's only like 32 things that like a human being kind of, you need more than 32 things, but like 32 necessary things that like you really kind of need on the daily. Like, and that would make up like, you know, your bakery, you know, a pharmacy, a doctor where you get your food, bicycle shop, whatever, right? And for the most part, if you plan a city without roads and like you use kind of traditional building methods like a Venice or like smaller walkable cities or canal cities or path-based cities, you could fit a crap ton of people. Like from what I understand is between like 10 and 30K, you could fit into like these 3 mile radiuses without building them on top of each other. So they're still like human scaled, because I think things should be kind of human scaled. And you can build these cities, you know, you can build these cities and you can give them everything they kind of need all in one place. And if you have to go somewhere else, you can like get on a road and go to another city or something.
And and this is obviously integrated with the remote style of working, remote learning, and at that point, whatever else comes to it, because you don't have to. Yeah, it's remote. You don't have to drive to work.
It's remote, you know, and it's even then. So then people are going to socialize together. They're going to be forced to, because that's the way cities are built, right? And it's like, it's going to force that. But on one other hand, like it helps with the politician problem, like where you can then kick the mayor of this small city that's like really close, you know, so you're messing up our city, and you're also just down the road. So like now people can actually have a say about that. And that's kind of one interesting. But yeah, get rid of the roads. Paul Gonzales, get rid of the roads. I'm running on that. Yeah.
Man, I'm so fascinated how your mind works when it comes to culture. There's so much to it that I hadn't even thought about.
Yeah, no, culture.
Through this conversation.
Culture goes really, really deep, and it's like I would say, you know, like culture informs philosophy, but philosophy is spoken through the hands. That's the thing. So like when it comes to culture, I'm less interested in what everybody has to say or this or that. All you got to do is watch. You know, all you got to do is watch how the people interact with each other. All you got to do is watch how like they smile even to themselves or to each other and these things, and the culture will speak to you. Interesting.
So action influences thought, and then thought and therefore influences action.
Yeah.
And it's a loop.
Yeah, it's kind of a loop, and the expression is all here in the hands, you know, and that's, I get worried about like talking too much about like culture and philosophy and all these big ideas, because at the end of the day, it's like all action. At the end of the day, like eventually I'm going to die, you're going to die, everybody's watching is going to die. It really sucks, but it's like I'll be damned if I didn't do something with the hands and with the brain and create reality, you know?
Well, if Neuralink pans out or one of these companies, we can live forever where we upload ourselves and have a different type of culture in the neurological sense.
The Neuralink stuff is super duper interesting, especially like with getting uploaded and like it puts you in the cloud or whatever. But I don't think I could do it. I
could do it for sure. Here's a question I'll propose before we get out of here.
Okay.
If your brain is digitally copied and then you're uploaded to this neural database or world or whatever you want to call it, is it actually you or is it a copy of you? Therefore, are you actually living forever because your mind is copied and it's not your original capacity?
I believe that in a sense, and I don't know all the answers. It's never, but like this is kind of what it feels like to me. we're in an eternal recurrence, and it's kind of like a karma thing or whatever, but like this is already forever. And I feel like if I put myself into a limbo state of am I real or am I not real, then I'm going to have to live with that forever, you know? And I don't know if I could do that.
Limboception.
Yeah. Just limboception. So yeah, but, that's going to be a weird one. I'd be happy to hire people, you know, that have neural links. That will be my way of interfacing with a neural link.
It's like they say you don't want to be the first person through the door. That's why everyone's afraid to take this vaccine. They don't want to be the first one, but they'll be the second wave. To know for sure if it's real.
I say we give the first wave to all the politicians. You know? let's make sure that the people in Washington, you know, can keep doing their job, keep being politicians. So they should get the first wave, right?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, but
let's take the vote there.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess that's that. It was been really awesome being here. That was a really good conversation. You know, we went deep.
Dude, that was super deep on a few levels. I've enjoyed it. I'm looking forward for you coming back. Yeah. I always leave everybody on this one question. And the question is, what does Las Vegas mean to you?
This is the world. It means the world to me.
Boom.
Yeah.
Where can all of the listeners find you and learn more about FTC?
My name is Paul Gonzales. More importantly, it's at For the Culture LV. You can find that on Instagram. If you went on Google, we've been working really hard. You can look up For the Culture LV or For the Culture Las Vegas, and you will find us. But yeah, For the Culture.
They're pretty easy to find. All the links are in the show notes, so you will be able to find them, and you'll definitely see Paul on more because I really enjoyed this conversation. I've been a big fan of philosophy my entire life. It's really tough to find people and to go down. I feel like we went like 7 or 8 levels deep on that one. So
we went a lot of different directions. But what was fun is we were intertwining. You know, you're doing good. Keep bringing me back. Let's get back on track and whatnot. But yeah,
I appreciate you, Paul. If you guys made it this far, I appreciate you guys for listening, and let us know how that went because that was a fucking whirlwind. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Yes, thank you. Bye.